Okay, back again. Sorry everybody. It feels like I've not been on here for ages, you know? So much has gone on and so many people have talked about things. And you know what? I think it's time I get out there and start pumping up some videos and pumping out videos and give you something to watch and talk about. So, a couple of topics I want to talk about, and this is the pro wrestling stuff, and then we'll do the MMA stuff afterwards. But, things that have been on my mind lately, and we're going to talk a little bit about TNA wrestling, and where do I begin or where do I start? I think I'm going to talk about one thing, and that's the X Division. Now, people have got their opinions on the Aces and Eights storyline, and I've got my own opinions on that. People have got their opinions on where the current programming is, you know, and all of that. But I really want to talk about the X Division because I was watching some old stuff, some old TNA stuff. I was watching the X Division, and it kind of brought back those feelings that I had, and I was like, the X Division looked like it could have been something really, really special for the next maybe course of 10 to 15 years, you know. Just more and more innovative and more, you know, risk-taking. It just looked like something very special, a very special style and something that would set TNA apart. And it's like as the years have gone by, bit by bit, we've seen this slow decline of the X Division, and it's had its little ups, but then it's gone right back down. And I remember back in the day when it first came up, and everybody, I mean, the X Division title was the title in America at one point, and with fans on the internet. And you know, that was the matches everyone was downloading on Kazaa, if you remember those days. And then we fast forward to 2003, and it seemed like it stalled. And 2004, and then it seemed to be coming back again, late 2004. And in 2005, it was like a real cutting edge, underground, new style hybrid thing coming up. And then we had the Joe, AJ and Daniels match that really boosted the X Division up, and you had all guys, guys coming up like Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin and P.T. Williams, who had already been X Division champion before. But you had all these people coming up and all these people in the indie scene that, man, if they got this guy and this guy, where could the X Division go? And then it seemed around 06, 07 that the X Division kind of lost its importance and lost its lustre, and then it seemed to get it back, but only for one match, and that was Sabin and Shelley. And it's been very up and down, and then Aries came in, and I felt that Austin Aries was a great addition to the X Division when he returned, and I actually felt he gave the belt a bit more meaning and a bit more credibility, and he was someone that, in my opinion, was representative of what the X Division should be. High-paced, high-flying, creative, innovative, nothing you've ever seen before, but with the basics of wrestling in it somehow, and a guy that could talk and carry himself like a star at the same time, and a guy that looked like he could match himself with your world champion, whether it's in TNA or WWE, and I think that's an important element for the X Division to have. And then Aries obviously did the promo, and he talked about, you know, basically the X Division champion being the guy to face the world champion, basically having the right to face the world champion. I think it's Slammiversary maybe, or was it Destination X? Slammiversary or Destination X, it's one or the other, I can't actually remember off the top of my head. And it looked like last year the X Division really had a lot of things going for it, and they were looking around and they brought in Kenny King to the company, and a few years back actually we saw Jack Evans and Caval and Zema Ion and lots of new people coming into the X Division, and it looked like, man, this division has a lot of promise. And now I sit here and I feel like this division hasn't lived up to its promise, and they put the belt on Zema Ion and then he hardly appeared on television, and I think they were going to have something with him, and I can't remember the guy's name off the top of my voice, but there was that one wrestler and he injured his neck, and if anyone remembers the name, because I can't remember it right now and I'll embarrass myself typing on my laptop, there was the one wrestler he was supposed to feud with basically, but then that never really materialised because of the neck injury and, you know, everything that happened there. Then RVD won the belt, and while I love RVD, RVD is not in his prime. RVD in the X Division, say that like 99, 2000, 2001, that would be perfect. Right now, absolutely not. He's not the same performer anymore. And, you know, when you see younger, more athletic, more innovative, more creative wrestlers on the rise, that probably can do more things than RVD can at this point in the, you know, in the juncture, and RVD is the X Division champion beating everyone, it kind of I don't know, it does something. And then Kenny King was the other guy, and Kenny King is now the current champion. And I do like Kenny King. I do think he's a talent, but for some reason, I think he's best suited outside of the X Division. I like his flashy style, but I think that he is someone that should be out of the X Division. Maybe in a tag team, or maybe as a singles heavyweight wrestler, you know, with the Rudes and the Rays, and someone that eventually gets built into that kind of part of the show. And you just sit there, and then you hear they're saying that they're gonna revive the X Division. They've got big plans for the X Division. And I watched this episode of TNA, and they said that they were going to, you know, these innovative plans, and every X Division match would be a triple threat match, and that was going to be the thing that would revive the X Division. And I'm watching it, and it still hasn't done that. I'll be open-minded, sure, let's see it, but a triple threat match, does that really help the X Division? Does that really revive it? When I think about things, and I think about the history of wrestling, what can revive a promotion, or what can revive a concept, is you bring in very talented new performers, and you push them hard in this particular spot, and you get a turnaround. And history has shown that that can be the case in wrestling. When the Cruiserweight division was first brought onto the scene in WCW, look at the talent that was brought in. Not just talent from America, but from Mexico and Japan and all over, and look at the things they could do, and they pushed them very hard, and they gave them the spotlight, and there was a turnaround with that, and the Cruiserweight title meant something, and smaller wrestlers were now a big part of the show, and not just looked at as job guys losing to the stars. When you look at just in general, when businesses have needed turnarounds in pro wrestling, it's always been bringing in new people, pushing them hard and reviving things, and repackaging stuff and reviving things. And you sit there and you think about the X Division, and I think that maybe that's what the X Division's missing. I mean, everyone's saying it on here, or maybe just me, that the X Division is stagnant right now, and it needs something. It needs an injection. It needs a shot in the arm. And when you see what's happening right now in wrestling, when you see that WWE are just going after every independent talent that they can find, going after a guy that they should have signed in El Generico, going after guys like Pac, going after guys like, well, they're interested in Prince Devitt allegedly, going after all of these people and getting them into the company, and TNA aren't really doing anything, and instead they're just more concerned about bringing in the next WCW main event from, you know, the late 90s, or the last WWF guy that they saw during the Attitude Era, and they're letting the young, talented people on the indie circuit just go to other places. That's very worrying, and what I'm getting at is really the X Division needs something. It needs to be re-emphasized. It needs to return to its glory. And how can it return to its glory? I think looking at bringing in new people and really pushing it hard, and guys that really are X Division style wrestlers. And I want to know what people think. Perhaps I'm wrong. I mean, I'm glad to see Chris Sabin back. I really like Chris Sabin. But I don't think he's the guy on his own that can do that. I think it's going to take him and maybe some new people brought into the mix. Maybe go after a Jack Evans. Maybe, well, heaven forbid they go after Teddy Hart. But maybe go after a Jack Evans. Or maybe go after an Adam Cole in ROH. Or maybe they should have gone after an El Generico, who would have been perfect. But now he's with the, the opposition. Anyways, tell me what you think of that. Next topic I want to talk about is NXT very briefly. And that's going to segue to another topic. NXT, I just want to get this off my chest very quickly. Is it just me, but am I not the only one that enjoys NXT more than Raw and SmackDown? Now, I did enjoy one thing on Raw. That was the Jericho and Heyman segment. I thought that was a lot of fun. Jericho's looked great, by the way, since he's come back. But NXT as a whole, I just prefer watching. I enjoy it. There's something about it that's a lot of fun. It's simple. It's easy to follow. The matches might be short, but they are fun to watch. You're seeing new faces, and you're not watching people get buried and look like trash just because they came from another company or had a career on the independent circuit. They're not taking it away. Listen to the commentary when you see someone like a Cassius Ohno, or even a Daniel Bryan, or a Seth Rollins when they're there. They're not going around trashing them. They're hyping them up and making the match feel important. And to tell you the truth, listen, I said it last year, I preferred FCW to everything else. I prefer NXT to anything else that WWE are doing right now. And speaking of someone in NXT that's about to make his debut, Bray Wyatt. Everyone got so hyped up for Bray Wyatt's promo on Raw last Monday, and from what I understand, this is a hot topic. And I know that because I did a video on him a few weeks back, or a few months back, that you need to check. And bear in mind, I have a small channel. Yeah, that got quite a lot of good views, and a lot of people kind of went there. And if you want to check it out, feel free. Just go through my channel, you'll find it on there. And it just seems that there's something there with Bray Wyatt's character. There's an appeal there. And it's interesting to me that there has been so much talk about one person, and we've barely seen him wrestle on their show just yet. And it should tell you something about the strength of the character and the package. And I thought it was a great way to bring in Brody Lee and the other guy who I can't remember. It's really bad, but I really liked the promos, and I know everybody is buzzed about them. And if you watch the promos, they're like, you know, those horror films you watch where you hear about, you drive off into this area that you've never been before, and it's got these people that are very, very different, and you've taken the wrong turn and they're going to do something to you. It had that kind of feel to it, and I liked it because it was different to anything else. That's why the Shield promos were great. And speaking of which, maybe somewhere down the line we're going to see a Wyatt family versus the Shield feud down the line, and I wouldn't mind seeing that. Maybe we're going to see Bray Wyatt. I think he'd be a perfect character for The Undertaker to go up against. But I will say this, the Bray Wyatt character is very interesting. I remember him when he was Husky Harris. I always thought he had potential then, and now it seems like they found something, and they've really molded him to a character that's worthwhile and has a lot of legs and is getting a lot of hype. He had a great match with Chris Jericho and NXT at the beginning of May, so if you haven't seen that, feel free to check that out. Look at me, I'm getting so dried out right now, and I'm going to have to stop. Guys, I feel so rusty. It's like, you know, when you haven't done a bit of sparring for a while and then you go back into it and you feel tired 2 rounds in and you're like, oh, for God's sakes, I wish I could get it back. That's how I feel today. So I apologise if I sound a bit disjointed and all over the place. Not usually my bouncy, funny self. You let me know what you think. Share the comments. Share the video. Make some comments. Wherever you are, whoever you are, feel free to write. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. I make videos quite regularly on wrestling, MMA and boxing, and as you can tell, I'm going to be doing an MMA and boxing video in actually a few minutes, so let me know what you think. And guys, take care and see you in a bit.